Welcome to the City Club of Eugene's November 18th, 2022 program, The State of UO. This is the 10th program of our 2022-2023 programming year. My name is Karen Knutson, and I am City Club's president. Welcome to everyone here with us in downtown Eugene and also listening today. It is a pleasure to have you here. Very hard to believe for all of us, I think, but here we are again at the cusp of the holiday season and with the end of the year coming into view. For almost 30 years, the City Club of Eugene has been delivering our mission to build community vision through open inquiry by coordinating weekly programs on topical, engaging community issues. We take the time to consider and convene conversations that we hope will help all of us to feel better informed and more connected to our community and to each other. In 2022, we have hosted programs on topics as diverse as mental health crises, dam removal, nuclear energy, homelessness solutions, the conflict in Ukraine, workweek transformation, a world championships worthy of Pre Bowerman and Sidney McLaughlin, and a whole slate of 2022 elections programming with several more programs yet to come before City Club closes this calendar year. The support that makes our programs possible is provided by City Club's members and our business and in-kind sponsors. Our diamond sponsors for today's program are Kaiser Permanente, Peace Health, and Lane Community College, and we appreciate the support of the City of Eugene and Lane County. You too can support City Club's mission and our weekly programming by becoming a member at our website, cityclofeugene.org. And we invite you to join us at City Club and to join these conversations directly by asking questions here in person or via live stream or email every week. We are here together for the learning, for the conversation, and for the connection with each other. And we'll have time for a City Club Q&A after we hear from our speaker today. Thank you to City Club's President-elect, Andrew Kollick, for coordinating today's program. And now I'll hand over the microphone to Andrew to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Karen. This September, the University of Oregon welcomed the largest freshman class in its history, over 5,300 students. And the university continues to advance major capital projects that are reshaping the campus in myriad ways. At the same time, higher education across the country is facing significant challenges, from declining enrollment to broader questions about the purpose of the university and its role in supporting both students and the broader community. Patrick Phillips took on the new role of interim president mere weeks before the start of the 2022-2023 academic year, when former UO president Mike Schill departed for Northwestern University. We are excited to welcome Patrick to the UO's hometown City Club. I know the president of the University of Oregon has spoken at Portland City Club, but we consider this to be UO's hometown City Club, for a look at the state of the university and a discussion about its present and future as a pillar of the Eugene community. Patrick, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for inviting me. It's actually an honor to be here. The City Club is an important part of our community, and it's been an important part of my life for a long time. So it's actually, I don't know if it was always a dream that I would be part of the City Club presentation, but it's definitely something I've been aware of in my 22 years as a citizen of Eugene, listened to the City Club presentations on the radio all the time. So it has been my honor to be leading the University of Oregon as interim president, especially at this particular moment in time. It's a very exciting time for the university, and I'm very enthusiastic about continuing the tremendous momentum that we have as an institution moving forward. As I said, I have been here for 22 years. I'm a biology professor, moved here in 2000 to become a faculty member. I played a lot of different roles since that time. I still have a lab, a biology lab, with about 15 people working away in there, supported by research grants from the National Institutes of Health. And they do great work, especially around the biology of aging. And because of that, and the work that I've done with graduate students and undergraduates over the years, I obviously recognize the important transformational potential of the research and scholarly work that we do at the university. In addition, I helped establish the Phil and Penny Knight campus for accelerating scientific impact, and in fact, I oversaw the design and initial construction of the beautiful building that we have on Franklin Boulevard and the bridge that crosses that. And I think that that's part of my goal in establishing that building, was for it to have a landmark location within the city of Eugene, and especially to use the bridge as a welcoming arch to the university district down there. So I would say that all of these things are not things that I set out to do. I've been asked to serve these various leadership roles, but in that way I've been called to do it because of my belief in the importance of the university in society, and especially in the state of Oregon. So I've been an active and engaged member of the Eugene community for many years. Both my children went to school here, graduated from South Eugene High School, and I benefited from what life is like in Eugene, and I've always been dedicated to enhancing that whenever possible. And obviously the university is a very important component of the Eugene environment. Our fortunes are completely intertwined with one another. I think that's safe to say. So it's totally appropriate that I come here and give you a state of the university, because it's important for the community. Just a little bit of context, just to remind you how intertwined we are. We have many students that come to Eugene campus of the University of Oregon from surrounding areas. About 3,000 of our students come from Lane County alone, and we obviously provide many amenities for that, affordable, high-quality education for these young people that are critical to our future, both of this community and the world writ large. We are a major employer, obviously, of the region as well. We create jobs and vibrancy that only a college campus can really do in a community. So people come to the U of O, especially because of the beautiful small city. I like to say that we're the University of Oregon, but being a university in Oregon is really our greatest attribute. So the university continues to be dedicated to make sure that we are preserving that aspect of our little local part of the world here. So by the numbers, the University of Oregon generates $2.6 billion in economic footprint annually in Oregon, much of that in Lane County. So each year we pay $350 million in local wages. We spend more than $800 million with local businesses, so we're an important part of the vibrant economic community. Over the past 5 years, capital construction projects have exceeded $1 billion. And so as the economy goes up and down, we continue to be kind of a constant source of investment in our community. In addition, and this is part of the benefit of having a large public research university in your community, our researchers bring in $220 million of grants, contracts, and awards in the last year. So these are largely funds that are generated outside of the state of Oregon and then brought in and spent locally. So this money is used by our research community to generate solutions, ideas, products, to engage in creative practice, lots of different things to improve our region and the world, of course. But in addition, it creates the capacity for us to do broader service activities, including one of the things that I'm most proud of is that the community COVID-19 testing that we set up at the university, and started as a small project and ended up serving the entire southern part of the state of Oregon. So Andrew just said we welcomed our largest, most diverse class of students that we ever have had. Sometimes people translate that into the university being the biggest it's ever been, but that's actually not quite accurate. So this is our largest freshman class, but at the beginning of COVID, our freshman class actually shrank a little bit, and there are some other demographic trends. So we're not quite at our largest size, but we're definitely trending as a very strong interest in the institution. And we're very proud of the diversity numbers and also of the quality indicators of our students. Basically, the University of Oregon is in a very strong position, and its reputation in particular across the country continues to grow. And so we're very proud of that. So, of course, these students are benefiting from the diverse array of academic programs we have, the state-of-art academic and recreational spaces that we have, our outstanding professors, opportunities to engage in social programs, to participate in creative activities, and to contribute more broadly across the community in each of these spaces. So earlier this year, we launched the new Balmer Institute for Children's Behavioral Health, which seeks to generate a new career path for those who are interested in helping to address the rising crisis in behavioral and mental health among children. It's based on the great strengths that we have in this space as a university, and it's also made possible by transformational philanthropy from the Balmer family. This will be based in Portland so that we can build diverse practitioners for diverse populations of students. Be happy to talk more about that if people have questions later. People are very excited about this. I'm very proud. We're also entering into the second phase of the Knight Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact. It's underway, and I'll speak about both of these a little bit more when we talk about the broader impacts that the university can have. So, and of course, and we just made quick mention of this, I guess there was a City Club program on this. We welcome the world to Eugene as in our support of the Oregon 22, the World Championships for track and field. It's useful to know that 18 million people across the United States watched the track and field championships. 1 billion people across the world got to see Eugene, Oregon in that event. Now, I didn't watch it on TV because when I could, I was there. But all my friends and family who watched it from other parts of the world said that Eugene was set off in just an incredible light. And in fact, all of the state of Oregon, they focused on different regions throughout the event. And so that was really a great contribution. That was a challenging thing to do, and I know it had challenging potential impacts on the community. But through partnership, we really got through that in just amazing shape, and it worked really well. So the university's mission is, of course, this research and education mission, but I like to really talk about it as we do education through our research mission, that is exposing students to cutting-edge research as they experience their college life is really critical. But we can also think about the broader community impacts of having a research university in the community can be, and we're really focused on more and more on what those impacts can look like. And that's something that we're called to be really especially by our students, but also by our faculty and staff as the changing landscape of higher education continues to progress. So the bottom line, if you take nothing else from this talk, it's that the future of the University of Oregon is very bright. And it's really bright because of the amazing passion and creative energy of our faculty and staff. They make the great programs that we have, and that we are receiving national attention and interest from students all over the world, and of course from Oregon itself. It's based on, especially as proved through the last few years, of the drive and resilience of our students. Sometimes we call that grit, and I'm very, very proud of our students who have stayed with us and were committed to their success, their lifelong success, and we can talk about that as well. We wouldn't be anywhere without the advocacy, love, and support of our alumni and friends. This is a challenging time for higher education, especially public higher education, and the University of Oregon is not immune from that. And so we really can only achieve true greatness through the contributions, both in terms, obviously, of financial, but really the energy that everybody brings to help us become a better institution. And then, of course, and this is the point of being here with the City Club, we really value our relationship and our partnership with our local community and neighbors in making everything about the university the successful place that it is. So one of the things I've been talking about, so right before becoming president, the last 3 years I was provost, and I started a series of initiatives as well as really thinking about what we're trying to achieve with those initiatives. And I've talked about we are the University of Oregon, but we're a university for Oregon. And sometimes I think we haven't been recognized for those contributions. Now, I have to be careful because I know on the radio, many of my friends and colleagues from the university will be listening, and they always say, oh, you talk about University for Oregon, but my research and my scholarly things have a world impact. But that's actually quite the point. In order to have the strongest impact for Oregon, Oregon needs a leading research university that has a worldwide footprint. Every great state in this country that is forward-looking and building a new economy, a new future for its citizens and its students takes that point of view, and that is our role within the state. But more and more we can own that in a more tangible way by the work that we do. And my own perspective on this really started when I started the night campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact, because I got out of my lab, which is a little bit ivory towery sometimes, and got out in the world. I met with the majority of the state legislature, I met with leaders of other universities, I met with business communities, and it really made me realize both the importance of the University of Oregon and the fact that we need to be pushing into a lot of different spaces in order to make that importance relevant, recognized, and to increase our impact more broadly. So we open the doors for Oregonians and prepare our students for the next generation of careers. And we drive economic prosperity in a wide variety of ways, including through the innovations and companies that we produce. But I think more and more we can help drive the innovation economy of the state of Oregon, and by proxy in Eugene itself, of course. But more importantly, we seek to understand what some of the most critical pressing issues are in society. So the first thing I'd like to highlight always is the core values of the university in serving those issues, and that is mostly the educational one. We play a critical role in a modern democracy, and the educational programs that our students participate in and our faculty and staff are also part of are really important. We're the only public journalism school in the state, and at a university, truth matters, and we're really dedicated to that. But more and more, we're also thinking about how we can bring together the various strengths of the university to be stronger together, to build on synergistic interactions that we have in order to make a bigger difference in the world. I think there's none of us that don't recognize that the world feels like it's at a crossroad. Probably everybody in every moment of time in history has felt that way, but the pace of change seems like it's getting almost inexorably fast. And so we also need to be thinking about what we do and how we're structured to help society encounter and deal with those big problems that are generated by these changes. That is the role of a public research university within an aspirational state and an aspirational society at large. So our mission is, of course, to educate and discover, but that's almost not enough any longer. We really need to do things that are in service of the greater good as well. This is truly our purpose, especially as a public institution in this state. So the world needs public universities like the University of Oregon and what they have to offer. And that's needed for the common good, but also because we are uniquely positioned to offer some of these solutions. So in order to make the greatest impact in Eugene, in the state and the world, of course, we're really trying to think about how to push those boundaries. And what I've tried to do, both as provost and now as interim president, is to create a creative play box or sandbox in which the faculty and staff can really get together and think about what they can do. So all the work that we do is imagined by what students are telling us and what the faculty and staff feel that we can really accomplish. And so my role is really just to facilitate those kinds of interactions and then to try to operationalize the vision there. So I'll go back to these two recent examples, the Night Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact and the Balmer Institute for Children's Behavioral Health. In both of these cases, our experts on campus identified problems and specific needs that the university could really be making an impact in, but wasn't at this moment as strongly as we might otherwise. So in just a few years, the Knight campus went from essentially nothing to transforming the way that we approach discovery and innovation, especially thinking about how we rapidly move discoveries within the university to the external world, and that frequently means through the creation of economic activity, new businesses, because we're really focused on things like helping patients heal faster, how to improve human performance, and to treat disease. And so we've gone from essentially a brand new thing about 6 years ago. We now have 13 faculty, and then through additional giving from the Knight family, we'll be moving to 30 faculty, hundreds of graduate students and staff that will be working, and we're building a new building. So we continue to make developments there. For the Bomber Institute, which is the latest great idea that we've been doing, it's housed in our new UO Portland campus, and it's poised to create a new profession of prevention practitioners that will be embedded, at least initially, within our schools, but more broadly, probably within healthcare and other venues, to serve as this kind of middle ground of mental health providers, behavioral health intervention specialists, to really address the rising need in mental health across the country. And what we really see this, even on our own campus, students more and more are asking how are we going to be supporting them in their whole lives as whole people in what they're pursuing. And so we're really dedicated to that work, but we can also exemplify that in the work that our students are going to do in the future. So this is just the beginning of a number of initiatives that the faculty and staff have worked with me on, and obviously the most pressing issue of our time, if you open a paper, is really the changes in the environment and the degradation of the environment. I don't have to tell anyone in this room what it's like to have smoke from wildfires rolling through the valley here. And so the faculty and staff are in the midst of creating a new institute that's going to examine climate change solutions and the environment to make sure that we are doing everything that we can. And we have expertise across the institution, from environmental law to social justice and environmental justice to environmental design and sustainable business practices. So we're really just bringing these together to make a concerted effort for a larger impact. We're also using data science to understand our world and to make decisions earlier, better, and faster, and to understand that in this world that's awash with data, how do we understand the ethical context of what we're trying to do? How do we train people who work in this space to understand what the ethical impacts of their decisions might be? And I think that's something that the university can be uniquely valuable in its role within the broader work that's being done here. We're leveraging our prowess on human performance, which includes, of course, scientific aspects of that, but also other aspects of the institution in the sport and wellness space. You may not know that we like to think about Nike and Columbia Sporting Goods, but we're also the North American headquarters for Adidas. There's nearly 1,000 companies in Oregon that work in the sport and outdoors industry, and we've never really leaned in, I think, as a state to understanding how to capitalize on that. And we have a lot of academic programs from science to business that can make those contributions and really continue to help to elevate the economy of the state in that space. Obviously, we've just gone through, well, we haven't certainly made it through the conversations about racial reckoning. This is a cyclical thing that the university is dedicated to being at the forefront of. We have political divisiveness, the rise in authoritarianism, and really our experts in many spaces in the institution, as well as our internal values of the university, need to be put forward here. But in a worldwide context, we've just created a new School of Global Studies and Languages that are dedicated to addressing the needs to work on these issues across countries and to empower our students to be the next generation of folks working on a peaceful and equitable world by utilizing the combination of an understanding of international issues with language skills. And that turns out to be somewhat unique across the country. And then finally, we're tapping our rich legacy of innovation and out-of-the-box thinking to support entrepreneurs in every field. And I think that this is how we create this new knowledge-based economy. Oregon has lagged a little bit behind our sister states in Washington and California, but I think that there's great opportunity here as we think about how to elevate all of the citizens of the state with this rapidly changing economy that we face. So the work is not any single one program or institute or solution or even a product. We are a very diverse community with many different impacts and outputs. And so we're really interested in celebrating that. And we continue to look for new ways to really educate the future change agents that are our young people. We're dedicated to them. We have faith that they will lead us forward in this new world, and that is really what a university is all about. So just to wrap up, I just want to reiterate, just speaking personally as a citizen of Eugene, but also as a member of the university community, how fortunate we are to be in this community, to live in a community that values higher education so much, that understands how we can thrive when we are all working together for the same common goals. I am personally committed to continuing to build this relationship as a neighbor, as an employer, an educator, and of course a service provider, but also, and this is what I think has brought many of us to Eugene in the first place, is a source of culture and of art and all of the other great things that a university can bring, which includes, of course, sports, which is going to happen this weekend as well. So thank you very much for being with me today. Thank you for all those who are listening, either right now online or will be listening on the radio later, and I look forward to taking your questions.
We'll be right back with the question and answer session. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the City Club of Eugene. We'll now take questions for Interim President Patrick Phillips, starting with Kitty Piercy.
Thank you. I'm a member of City Club and glad to be here with you all today. I want to thank you for being here and bringing us up to speed on what's happening at the university. We appreciate that. If I had been talking to you last year, I probably would have been harping on climate change, but you're well into that in your discussion. The thing that you poked in my mind today is you have a dedication to journalism and the concern about the future of democracy. And what I see is that we are losing media everywhere, and we're losing the public place to have community discussion. This is one place, but we need that larger media place to talk across the community about common goals and common future. It seems to me that the university could have a really big role in how we address both journalism and democracy in the future, and I'd like to hear you talk about that.
Sure, and of course you'll be always Mayor Piercy to me, so that's how I will address you and think of you. I think we have a lot of different places there. I do think that coming out of isolation that we were in COVID, we lost a lot of mojo around how to be together and to engage in these conversations. There's a couple aspects. One is the formalistic one, what happens when we start losing newspapers and all of these other sorts of venues. And our School of Journalism and Communication is actually dedicated. There's internships that our students go out into local communities and serve their local newspaper, so that that's a great training opportunity as well as an opportunity to continue to do that. I think at the end of the day, what a university is about in particular, and what we're really dedicated to, is being an open forum for the discussion of ideas. And that can take many forms, but it also, we need to be open to many points of view. Sometimes those are not popular on one side or another. And so that's our core value. What we have not done on our startups for the fall is to create sort of those conversations. And I think as we get rolling up over the next year in particular, you'll see more and more departmental seminars and community-based talks and speakers coming through. I think one of the challenges has been frequently you need a year lead time to bring in a major speaker who's going to speak to some exciting issues that are going to bring the community together in conversation. And so we're dedicated to continuing to do that and to create venues where those things can occur. More and more folks don't necessarily want to have open conversations. There's a lot of silencing of conversation, and I think that's a give and take that we're always going to feel on university campuses, is how do we make sure that we're creating open venues for broad discussions, because I do think that ultimately is the role of a university in society, is to do that, and then to allow students to understand what how they're going to view their own knowledge, how they're going to help the world understand things better. But we're also dedicated to giving them the tools so that they can assess information better. And I think that that is, in this rapidly changing world, that's one of the things that we need to keep looking at our own work to see, are we actually serving students the best way to understand, for instance, what is fake information, what is real information, all of those things.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you also for coming and spending your valuable time with us. My name is Sharon Reed, member of City Club. Two quick, maybe data questions. I'm curious, what are the top 3 or 4 degree majors across the student body? And then my second was, what's our current percentage of international students, and has that maybe changed?
Let me answer the first one. Sometimes those two questions are related, actually. So by far, our most popular major is psychology. It's really interesting. When you look at the number of applicants, a large fraction of students who are looking at the University of Oregon are listing psychology as their primary interest area. And when they come to the university, the growth of the psychology department has just been tremendous. There's good reasons for that. We have an internationally well-known psychology department, for one thing. For instance, Michael Posner, who's a long-term member of the department, was the first National Science Award winner from the university a number of years ago. But we have many well-known faculty, and the programs that they're doing are very innovative. For instance, in digital mental health is one of the new areas that they're working on. So that's a very popular area. That's part of the basis that allows us to move into the Balmer Institute, because we could draw on that. And as my colleagues, many of my colleagues in the College of Education like to point out, we have a lot of psychologists in the College of Education who work on child psychology, but also school psychology. And so it's the combination of those features in particular that make the university really not completely unique, but uniquely strong at a national level. Other popular majors are things like human physiology for people who are interested in going into health-related fields. So if you combine human physiology and biology in particular, that's almost the same size as psychology. One of the fastest growing areas in our humanities area is cinema studies, which I think I'm very excited about what that future could look like, getting back to journalism and the strengths in communication. The modern student works in a media world. That's how they interact, that's how they work, and empowering them to understand how that can work for them in their own future lives, but also as a cultural force, as an academic institution, we need to be kind of studying that and tracking that. So you asked about international students. This is partially why, even though we have the largest freshman class of all time, we're not the largest the university has ever been, because we lost a lot of international students over the last 5 years. There's a number of forces for that. Some are geopolitical. Most of the growth in international students we had were Chinese students, and we've lost many, many, many of our Chinese students. It was already hard to get into the country under the previous administration. COVID made it impossible, and there's still very restrictive travel features in China right now around the pandemic. And even with the change of administration, the geopolitical tensions are not easing. The other thing that's happened in China is that they've made huge investments in their own higher education system. So 20 years ago, you wanted to come to the United States. Now there's really outstanding universities in China as well. So I think as we come out of and reopen to the world, that's one of the things I really am having us look at, is how can we be more broadly engaged in an international space. That's a great feature of the university in the community of Eugene, is to diversify that with the international perspective. It's not just about numbers, it's also about what is it to be an internationally relevant university, to provide these opportunities for engaging different points of view, cultural backgrounds. We really value that, and so we need to regrow those areas that we lost over the last 5 years.
Thank you.
Step right up.
Hi, I'd like to welcome you also. My name is Roz Stein. I'm a member of City Club, and I'm lifelong practically educator. So I really perked up about the Balmer Institute. I had read about it somewhat, but I started thinking, you're going to train a lot of people to work in mental health in the schools. It's very much needed. But I'm just wondering if the schools are going to be able to afford to hire these people. I'm just concerned about where they're going to go when they graduate.
So that was actually our starting point in conversations, is we're not going to do something if there's not a launch point for our students, and there's a lot of complexities there we probably don't have time to get into. But the fact is, and as you all have probably had many presentations on, almost all school funding is local, but the state pushes central funds to schools, and they're pushing funds in these spaces. But local school districts don't necessarily have the expertise to know how they should be spending those dollars, or who are the workforce to do this. So to some degree, there's already resources. The state of Oregon just last year passed $1 billion initiative in mental health. So the state legislature has shown a willingness to make these investments, and I think more and more people are looking for it. There are other technical details about licensure and all of these sorts of things, and so before we even got this started, we talked to school districts. They're partners. We like to use this word co-creation. So we're co-creating these things with school districts and especially with the state. Governor Brown was part of the discussion when we got the Balmer Institute started. Her head of the whole educational services for the state was at the table as we were trying to think about what to do. So this isn't just, oh, isn't this a great idea that's needed? This is already highly integrated. The folks who are leading the Balmer Institute have already talked to 150 different community groups about what their needs are. So this is, I like to say, this is the most naked the university has ever been out in the world. We are out there doing all of this engaged work because we recognize the challenges that you're talking about. And we know that this is needed. We know that our students want to help make the world a better place, but we have to make sure that we are plowing the field so that they can really be productive as they get there. So this is day one. This was the conversation we had.
Thank you. We'll take a question from online and then we'll get back to the room. This question is, how does Eugene's housing crisis impact UO's hiring of teaching and research talent? Would the university consider building faculty housing, and are you building enough student housing?
So lots of facets of this. I will say that this is, I don't know if there's any advantages of moving from provost to president, but this is one that this has been a primary concern of mine for many, many years, and now as president I can drive the conversation a little more in a more focused way. I am very concerned about housing. We never want to be in a position where the community wishes that the university wasn't doing so well because it's driving up housing prices. The reality is, regardless of what the university does, we're a West Coast community of high value, and if you look up and down the coast, housing pressures are really extreme. I am very concerned about this from a wide variety of reasons, including the one that I just said. We don't want to be pricing the members of the community out of their own housing. But I think from a recruiting and support aspect for our faculty and staff in particular, and for our graduate students and our undergraduates, we really need to be attentive to this. You may have noticed that kind of the private industry is addressing the undergraduate situation to some degree. We've made tremendous investments in on-campus housing for our undergraduates. That mostly serves our freshman population. We have a freshman on-campus living requirement because what all of our information and data from other schools shows is that students who live on campus in their first year do better. They graduate earlier and more successfully. I'm really concerned as a bedroom community. Historically, Eugene, which is based on single-family houses, doesn't really have this mid-tier housing of townhouses and condominiums. And I think it's just a reality that that's something that as a community we need to do. The university may be able to play a role there, but I would like to work with developers and the city to think about what is our plan for addressing this, because if we should have started it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but if we don't start it today, we're going to be in a lot of trouble very quickly. So I think there's a lot to be done here, and maybe people don't want townhouses and condominiums, but remember our primary development ethic that the community has decided is the urban growth boundary and infill. So that was the first mover. Once you make that decision, then you really need to think about how to diversify housing, because we're not moving out to build more houses outside of the urban growth boundary. So once we say this is our primary value is the urban growth boundary, then you really need to think about diversifying the offerings of housing within the community. And I want the university to help lead that conversation immediately, because we owe it to the community, we owe it to our faculty and staff, and if we don't do it, the university itself is going to face some pretty deep problems in the next coming years for sure.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Horney. I'm a City Club member, and I'm also a retired senior research associate in the College of Education here. My question is about the humanities. There's been articles and reports in the news over the last few years about the role of humanities in universities, especially with the trends towards emphasizing STEM and technology and science and whatnot. And there are issues where humanities departments have been marginalized, some of them closed, and the whole question about what to do with humanities. Does the university have any initiatives investigating these kinds of issues with our humanities departments? And if there are issues, what might be done about it? Thanks.
It's a great question. Obviously, the University of Oregon, and this goes back to its founding, was founded as kind of the liberal arts university of Oregon, because we all recognize what an important component of emerging society is. If you think back in the late 1800s, what did that really mean as we were creating this new world? So we're still dedicated to that as a core part of our mission. To some degree, when students start voting with their feet, then it becomes a fiscal challenge. I don't think most people know that universities in Oregon are funded at the 45th per student funding level in the whole country. So it would be great if the citizens of Oregon said higher education is something that we really want to invest in, but we do because of that. And I should also just point out, the University of Oregon receives the least funding per student of any university in Oregon. Of the 7 universities, we receive the least. So we're kind of low in terms of public investment in the university. What that means is that we're strongly driven by tuition, almost entirely. Not entirely, but at the 90% level. So we do need to be aware of where students are actually spending their dollars. And so part of the conversation is how do we make sure that we're aware of communicating the value of the humanities, social sciences more broadly, to everyone's education. And there's a couple aspects of that. I'll highlight some of the initiatives that we do have. One is this one on global studies and languages. So our largest group of departments in the humanities is actually the languages. So if you think about traditional languages like Spanish and Romance languages, and we have incredible strengths in East Asian languages like Japanese and Korean and Chinese as well. We're a Chinese flagship university. So it's one thing to just study those as traditional fields of study. It's another thing to think about how you use language to empower students for their future lives. And that's where this new School of Global Studies and Languages can really make that transparent to students about how we can combine those. And if you major in Chinese and global studies or business and those things, that gives you new opportunities. I already mentioned cinema studies, which is hugely growing, and there's other features of the humanities. And if I don't mention them all, then people get perturbed. I would say it's also a false narrative sometimes. So maybe one of the departments that people love to make fun of would be philosophy. Well, philosophy is one of our strongest departments at the University of Oregon. And when you look at it at a dollar cost basis, because so many students take philosophy and do great, and we have outstanding faculty in philosophy, that's a well-supported and really valuable feature of the university. So to some degree, we need to be just addressing that. The other component that I'll just very quickly say is that recognizing the value of a well-rounded human, even in the STEM fields, is really important. And I think we're at a moment in society where we're starting to feel that. I don't need to point out what's going on at Twitter right now to kind of illustrate some of those challenges. So when I talk to, for instance, new chip manufacturing companies in the state of Oregon and data science folks, they need employees who understand what ethics is, that are well grounded in history and these sorts of features. So what we want to do is work with employers and then have them express kind of what are the features of our students, and so that everybody recognizes just learning a narrow technical field is never going to be what advances their life, both as citizens, but even in terms of their professional success in their careers.
Thank you.
Whether it's philosophy or Elon Musk's ethics, we've witnessed a growing skepticism in some corners about the value of a four-year college degree. In fact, there was a poll done by Gallup that suggested that 51% of Americans believed that a college education was very important. That was in 2019. That was a decline from 70% in 2013, and indeed the decline was most stark among young adults. And so I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about what you think accounts for that trend and how you as a university president respond to it if someone asks you about the value of the four-year college degree.
Well, I think there's actually a lot of elements to that, those changing systems. One, I think we need to acknowledge that college is becoming more expensive, and it's not by any intentionality of the universities, certainly not the University of Oregon, but there are some natural forces. Mostly 80% of our expenses are in personnel costs, and we work in a fairly inefficient environment that is built on direct mentorship, and personnel costs through retirement, healthcare, all these things have been going up. I already highlighted the fact that there's been disinvestment by states. Oregon, it's not a point of pride, but we were first in disinvesting in universities, and that's a real challenge. So of course, universities are more expensive when students have to bear more of the cost. And I won't harp on that. That's just a statement of reality. I think the other features to remind folks is that's a false statement that it's not worth it to go to university. All the data and information shows that that in fact it is always beneficial to go to university. Of course, it's on average. There'll always be special cases where that doesn't work out for folks. I think, but it creates an increased focus for us to make sure that we're delivering value to students, but we cannot become a vocational school per se. But the way I like to think about it is we're responsible for the entire trajectory of a student's life. Our role while they're in the university is to perturb that trajectory upward, is to lift them up as high as possible, but to also be attentive to their lifelong career success and to make sure that they're building the skills and recognize the skills that they are getting while they're here. And the final element that I'll say is there does seem to be some political effort to devalue education per se in this country. That's a little dispiriting, I would say. And so part of the role of universities is to put our shoulder against that narrative and to make sure that we are highlighting why truth, justice, all of those things that are essential to the world are of value, and training and engaging in those conversations are critically important to the world that we seek to achieve. So I think there's a natural cynicism that seeks to undercut investment in education overall. Universities play a role in trying to counter that, but it really comes down to the citizens of this state and of the United States to make sure that they are recognizing what they're doing and what they value, and can step in to support the institutions that to help carry those values forward.
Thank you.
Paul Thompson, a City Club member for some time. I think you described in the beginning of your presentation that you had a laboratory and was doing research yourself. And I wonder if you might elaborate on that, because I think it was about aging, and if you look around to the crowd here, that would be of high interest. But what breakthroughs are you coming up with?
Yeah, so I find that this piques people's attention regardless. And I've given several talks, including some community talks in Eugene. So I'm very fortunate that I've been able to have a well-funded research lab, even as I've done these various administrative roles, and that's because I have a dedicated group of professional scientists that work with me, but I also have graduate students and a lot of undergraduates. Many who have been done their honors theses and things in my lab, and I have them right now. And that helps keep me grounded as a president in what our actual research and education mission is. So that's really valuable to me. I think it would be difficult to do if I hadn't have been here all these years. Specifically, what we're working on is a wide variety of things. Genetics is the basis of all the work that we do. And so we're actually working to discover new compounds. You can't call them drugs because they're not FDA approved, but new compounds that that can lead to especially healthier aging throughout life. We use a model system. It's just this little worm that we study. It turns out to be, it's a long story, but it's a model system for studying aging. So we're really interested in trying to find out ways that we can intervene to build, to help individuals live not just longer lives, but especially healthier lives. And as I've done more and more of this work, I just got into this field about 15 years ago, I've recognized that the critical question is really brain health. And so we're trying to create new innovative ways, and we've created some new patented technologies to do genetic research. Just had some news stories come out about that, so that we can really do some aggressive work, again, using this model system as a way of figuring out a way to make each individual neuron in our head live a little bit longer and healthier, because at the end of the day, that turns out to be what people find the most important. Our bodies can do a lot of different things as we get old, but if our brains are active and healthy, then that's great. And this is not a trivial undertaking for society, because it's estimated that in about 10 to 20 years, about 30% of American society will have dementia. And that's because we're an aging society. And it's really a challenge. And I've personally experienced this. I've had multiple elderly family members with Alzheimer's and other dementias. And so I think that's what I've decided, that our lab, if we're going to spend time doing anything, let's try and really move the needle. This is a huge financial burden for the country. It'll exceed over $1 trillion 10 years from now. And that's really a huge challenge that we don't really have a great path forward on.
Where do I sign up for the clinical?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's we're not ready for the clinical trials on that. That's a whole discussion about how one studies aging in the context of modern medicine, where aging itself is not considered a disease. So we tend to treat endpoints rather than, this is a classic US story, right? We're not big on prevention, we treat the endpoint. And so aging, if we're really gonna have a big impact, you've gotta intervene really early on to change that trajectory of an individual's life. So I'm afraid, even for me, it's going to be a long time period, but we do this for all the generations, but as soon as we can. And it may be sooner than we think.
Get your membership dues in, you get a free cut in line to the clinical trial. We got time for one more question, President Phillips, and we've received a couple of questions about the university and its use of land, whether it's related to this long-term dream of many in Eugene for an arboretum north of the train tracks, or whether it's the land swap that the Board of Trustees of the university recently approved to propose with the city that would have UO giving 8 acres of real estate on the campus side of the river to the city in exchange for some city-owned land near Autzen Stadium. The question is, where does the university intend to grow its footprint? And how does open space play into that plan?
Well, I think land is very important. Use of space is incredibly important. That's why we have a clear institutional plan that has been worked on for decades now, and we have local procedures. One of our central values is open space, for sure. And the thing that I've always loved about the Eugene campus, and I travel all over the world and many different campuses across the country in particular, is the human scale of the University of Oregon campus. When you come on, it just feels right somehow to me, at least to me. Maybe that's why I stay. And when we look at our students, when we survey those who apply and then come to the university, the beauty of the campus is actually one of the top 2 indicators of why they come to the University of Oregon. And that's not, I think they mean not just the on-campus environment, but to be in the state of Oregon, to be an hour from the mountains and the coast and everything that we all love about being here. The flip side of this is that when whoever created the University of Oregon didn't allocate enough land for a major research university. And you can't blame them. Hundreds of years ago, well, not hundreds, but over 100 years ago, who knew what the modern university was going to be? But if you look at our sister up the road at OSU as a land-grant institution, they have huge swaths of land that they can develop and so on and so forth. So we are a little bit landlocked, and we're constrained. That being said, in terms of our long-range planning document, we're in pretty good shape for growing for the next few decades, and so we're pretty confident about how to do that. I hope that everybody in Eugene has seen that when we do development, we reinvest in the environment as well. So the Night Campus is a great example of that. If you've gone by the mill race, if you would have seen the Nuccia having parties in there before, and we went and cleaned it all out and really made it a beautiful location. We're dedicated to doing that and understanding, how to engage the areas north of the train track. So we recognize this responsibility, and we work in partnership, especially with the planning office of the city, to make sure that what we're doing engages with the entire community. I would say that getting back to the housing situation, that's another component of land use. We actually own some pieces of property where we can start thinking about how our development at least goes to our ideals of not just building raw hunks of building, but also thinking about how that enhances community interactions within those who live in those local neighborhoods. That's something that I'm personally dedicated to and that the university is trying to work towards. And I think if you see the way that we built, for instance, our dormitories, it's really oriented around those things as design elements.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for questions. I'm going to turn the podium back over to City Club President Karin Knudsen.
Thank you, Andrew. This has been our November 18th, 2022 City Club program, a conversation with interim University President Patrick Phillips in the state of the UO. Before we thank our speaker one last time today, I would like to recognize today's diamond sponsors. Kaiser Permanente exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities that we serve. More information is available at kp.org. Peace Health has been proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond as your hometown healthcare provider for more than 80 years. The Peace Health mission is to keep you and your family healthy, and you can learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. And thank you to the City of Eugene and Lane County for their support. Thank you also to today's Sapphire sponsor, AARP Oregon. AARP is dedicated to empowering people aged 50 plus and keeping Oregonians informed, engaged, and active. And you can learn more at states.aarp.org/Oregon. Thank you to our gold sponsors today, Ferguson and Fife Dentistry and Hummingbird Wholesale, and also to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, Pack Info and Simplified Computing LLC, and Dotson's Photography. And of course, a special thank you to our award-winning radio station, KLCC FM 89.7, for airing City Club programs on Monday nights at 7 p.m. You can find all recent City Club programs archived on KLCC, as well as our City Club YouTube channel and as podcasts. Next week, City Club will take a week off for the holiday weekend, and we're very thankful to all of you for joining us in efforts to build community vision through open inquiry every day, in many ways, in your lives all around this community. We'll return in person on December 2nd with a program on preventing elderly homelessness. Affordable housing for seniors is one particularly challenging aspect of Oregon's housing crisis, and it requires its own unique solutions. In this program, we will explore the new reality of aging in our economy, debunk some common myths, and hear about strategies for success. Then, on December 9th, we will welcome experts in child and adolescent behavioral health from the Ballmer Institute. Ask any teacher how students' mental health and behavior have been affected over the past few years. Step back and wait for the shocking stories. The consensus is that things are bad and getting worse, but that there is an opportunity for us to do something about it. and that something is pretty big. The founders of the Balmer Institute have just made a gift of $425 million to prove that same point, and we hope you will join us for a program to learn more about the innovative approaches and strong shoulders that the U of O's new Portland-based institute will stand on. Right now, City Club is planning our programming for 2023, and we have some very exciting news to share in just the next couple of weeks. We're looking forward to sharing that news soon. But if you have a suggestion for a City Club program, please visit our website, cityclubofeugene.org. We welcome everyone to join this conversation and to suggest topics that you would like to learn more about and talk more about in our community. It's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you today, Interim President Phillips, to City Club. I have to say, for a university president to study brains and aging, two things that we hope to all share, while thinking about the future of brains and our entire society globally, our community. I think very appropriate and very exciting and quite inspiring, the work that's underway. Thank you for joining us here today. And thank you all for being here with us at the City Club of Eugene. We look forward to seeing you again soon.